Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. It's September 17th, 2024. And everybody's starting to wonder why they're taking the script down the road of these attempted assassinations of Trump. And how does that link into John F. Kennedy, of course, was assassinated? We're going to dig deeper into that because I promised you we would do that today. We're going to look at the Kennedy-Trump matrix and how these two men are connected by events in their lives, by the numbers, and by the letters. We're going to dig deeper into the numbers 66 and 58 in JFK's life. We've already found those numbers in Trump's life, but they're also all over Kennedy's life as well, which links these two men together. I also took a second look at the Superman movie, Man of Steel, that came out in 2013, and I found graphene all over it. Graphene and needles. And they wonder why people have these theories about certain things, don't they? Unreal. Now, let's go ahead and get started. We're going to start with JFK first. We already knew that they are linked to Trump. We knew that he was linked to Trump. These numbers, 58 and 66. But do they also appear in JFK's life? And yes, they absolutely do. Let's go down the Kennedy 5866 rabbit hole. Now, if Kennedy was still alive, what year would he have turned 66? That would have been the year 1983. Now, don't get too lost in the numbers. Just understand we're looking at number synchronicities. We're looking at numbers that aren't supposed to be there, that are there. Okay? It's not an exact science, but it gives us a snapshot into the mind of how these Freemasons work. Essentially, what they do is they build their life around these numbers, and they are born into these numbers as well. So, if JFK was still alive, he would have been 66 in 1983. Well, that just so happened to be the year that Trump decided to open Trump Tower. 1983. Now, in that year, of course, JFK would have been 66 years old, which just so happens to be the penthouse floor that Trump's penthouse sits at. The 66th floor penthouse. So, obviously, Trump built Trump Tower in some kind of remembrance of JFK for some future plan. Now, here is where it gets a little bit weird. Now, I'm talking kind of slow because I know when I rattle off these numbers, you can get lost in them, but it's actually pretty basic and simple. Because Trump numbered his 66th floor penthouse with only a 58-story building. Now, I didn't do that. He did it. A 58-story building with a 66th floor. Now, he did that on purpose, and I'll get into the details of why he did that pretty shortly here. But understand that Trump was born in a leap year. He wasn't born in a leap year, but if he was, he would have been born on the 166th day of the year. Maybe that's why his penthouse is at the 66th. Now, as many of you know, his mother's from Scotland, which is at the 58th north parallel. And that's probably why he incorporated both of these numbers. So you understand that these numbers are very important to these people. Now, the question has to be asked, was Trump Tower a commemoration of JFK and the knowledge of Trump's future presidency? Well, how would he have known that he was going to be president? That he would win the 2016 election? How would he have known that in 1983? Well, apparently he did. How can I prove that? Well, because the presidency that he won was 58 years after 1958. Yes, 2016 was 58 years after 1958. The same number of floors in Trump Tower. It's as if he knew. And then the whole ode to JFK, a former president, all of the evidence numerically points to a foreknowledge of events. And it makes you wonder, is every single president already basically picked out decades and decades in advance? I think so. So now we have a definitive 66 connection and the 58 connection. Now, in addition to Trump winning the election 58 years after 1958, that was also the 58th presidential quadrennial election as well. So there's 358 confirmations, and you can also see it here in the coordinates of Trump Tower that falls at 73 degrees and 58 minutes in the meridian. Wow. Now, what else is going on? Are there any other numbers that seem to line up? Well, yes, they absolutely do. Because 1958 was a very important year in Kennedy's life. He won the Senate for the second time in a row in Massachusetts, and he won it by such a landslide that it marked the year that he began his run for the presidency. And of course, the rest is history, but this was the turning point for JFK, was 1958. What other numbers in these men's lives match up? Well, of course, Kennedy died at 46 years old, and Trump was born in 46. I wonder if Trump sees himself as JFK or if the machine sees him as JFK. And now all these assassination attempts, quote unquote assassination attempts, begin to make sense because it seems like it's all scripted. Now, if you still have doubts about whether or not these two men are connected, this is Kennedy's gravesite. And we did a video on this, didn't we? This gravesite is shaped like the letter Q. And we'll get into what that means shortly here. But it's also aligned to 66 degrees exactly. From this lower right area right through the center of the Q is an exact 66 degree heading. More confirmation. But look at where the GPS is situated here at this gravesite, which is called the Eternal Flame. Look at the numbers. 38.88 and 77.07. That's a 888 and a 777. Wow. Now, what else is going on? Well, we've learned through our studies, and this is probably the reason why this is shaped like a letter Q. We learned from our studies that the Q and the K are the same letters in some alphabets. So, of course, Kennedy, you could respell that Q-E-N-N-E-D-Y. Remember, it's the cough symbol, Q-O-F. And that's what we saw in the aerial view of Mar-a-Lago. So you go into Google Earth in Mar-a-Lago and you can actually see the cough symbol that we found, which is a Q and a K both. It's the same sound, actually, pretty close to it. So this is the site and actually holds this eternal flame, just like the Olympic ceremony, based off of the eternal flame. And remember the new fire ceremony that we went and found the roots of the eternal flame all the way back in the new fire ceremony, which reaches its zenith every 52 years on the 5th of November, when the Pleiades are highest in the zenith. This is when the new fire ceremony takes place. Election Day 2024. Wow. Now, I dug even deeper and found out that Robert F. Kennedy was assassinated on 6/6, June 6th. So what all this means beyond the number synchronicities and the connection to Trump remains to be seen. But you'll understand that a lot of people are now talking about, why are all of these shooters Republicans or conservatives? And now they're all talking about what we were talking about, weren't we? We were saying, with all the reasons why, someone would want to assassinate somebody, it seems a little imbalanced, doesn't it? And Vance just made that exact same comment. So we were ahead of the game again in talking about these things. So let me pop into the chat here before we get into these clips I'm going to show you from the Man of Steel movie. Now, I decided to rescreen the Man of Steel. I was actually bored and I was looking for what I was going to add to the show today. And again, still small voice, right? Sometimes you just have to be still and know that he's God and know that he is the one directing all of this, right? And so I was like, okay, God, at least I want to be entertained. And I do remember I tried to watch Inception first because I was looking at the top IMDb movies. I was like, okay, let's do a really good decode on a top movie that everybody watches. And the first movie that popped up was Inception. I got about 10 minutes into the movie and I was like, I can't even deal with this. Turned it off. Inception was just a lame movie. I don't know if it got a slow start or what, but I couldn't even deal with it. I'm like, okay, I've seen Man of Steel about 15 times. I'm going to watch it again through the lens of the pandemic, because we hadn't actually watched it in a while, had we? Well, this is what I'm going to present to you today. The Man of Graphene Steel. Literally, graphene was all throughout the movie. They actually tried to withdraw his DNA with a needle. I mean, it's all the elements of stuff we've talked about, and this is all the way back in 2013. And this begs the question, how did the makers of Superman know all this? I've even got some clips from the 1980s version of Superman that seems to show graphene. Wow. All right, let me check in with you guys and we'll get into these clips. You guys are probably chomping at the bit. Tomorrow will be another Between the Headlines show. I've already got some headlines stacked up for you guys. Today's show will probably be a short show. Probably be on here for about another 10 or 15 minutes. Let's see. During the debate, Trump kept repeating "lost by a whisker." Yes. And, it's interesting. All this cat programming, right? So, lost by a whisker. And then what else did he say? Gosh. And then Melania. She's known as like the Catwoman. Remember we identified her as the Catwoman in the comics because of the cat eyes. And losing by a whisker, just super weird. Yes, the cough, Mama Sap. Yes, and we'd broken down that letter. And we saw also that it was shaped like a sickle. There's a weapon called a cough or a kappa. Kappa and cough are the same letter, essentially. I'm going by memory here. I don't have my notes pulled up on that, but I think we looked up kappa and cough. And then the cough sounds like an audible cough, like when you're coughing, right? And of course, that's what we went through with COVID. So it's like all this predictive programming. All right, what else is going on in here? Dale's listening while driving. Awesome. All right. It's kind of foggy this morning. So I did catch some footage of an amazing rainbow that I'll show to you guys on the backup channel when I do the next Honey Milk Ranch. Hopefully it shows up in the video. If it does, I'll play it for you. Amazing rainbow set in the clouds. First one I've actually seen here. So that's pretty cool. All right, let's get into this clip, you guys. This is shocking. Now I'll pause this as we go through it. But understand that what I was looking for was graphene. Okay. I don't think I show the injection part, but everybody remembers the scene when they capture Superman and they basically inject his neck or withdraw something from his neck with a needle because they want his DNA, because the entire genetic line of Krypton was incorporated into Superman. And so General Zod wanted to retrieve that to extend their race. Now, you know what was funny too was all the phallic symbolism. I couldn't believe it. Like I was like, they really did that. Because it's all about the seed, right? So they're trying to save the seed of the Man of Steel. But I guess in 2013, everybody was asleep. When General Zod and his army, his small army, get captured, and they put them in these, like, what appear to me to look like toys, and they fire them off into this, I guess, a black hole or something, so that he's trapped in the Phantom Zone. I was like, these people don't even try to hide this stuff anymore. So anyway, let's keep going with this.
What's going on? It's all over the news. Does anybody know where we keep the toner cartridges?
Clark. Are you listening, Clark?
Toner cartridges, graphene. Now, graphene is made from graphite. It's essentially a thin layer of graphite from a pencil. And this is how they discovered graphene, was from pencil shavings that got stuck on tape. And they saw that the graphite would self-organize into what amounts to a lattice. So, where are the toner cartridges? There's your graphite. Let's keep watching here.
Clark.
Then we flash back to Clark in school, and he first starts to imagine his powers.
Are you listening, Clark? When Kansas became a terror.
And they show more graphite pencils.
Are you all right, Clark?
More graphite pencils. Now, it's obvious when you're looking for it, but it's not so obvious when you're not awake to it. Now, there's more. Let's keep watching here. Now, this is in the very beginning when they're still on Krypton and they're about to send Superman out into space, send him to Earth, and their technology is all about this graphene. It's like this metallic looking substance. And so in this case, they're showing, basically an ultrasound of Superman inside his mother's womb. Let's keep watching here. You got to be careful here. Gosh, I think they were really, really hard on the soundtrack copyright with this, so I'm going to be pausing it intermittently here. So the whole race of Superman gets put into Clark when he's a baby. More graphene, more phallic symbolism. More graphene. Yeah, their entire technology seems to be based around this graphene. So Zod comes in, tries to interrupt. He's like, what are you doing with the whole genetic legacy of Krypton, and they're like, we're going to put it in Superman and send him to Earth. And then they shoot Superman off into space. And so again, this is more sexual reproduction type of programming here. Now, this is from the 1980s Superman. And look at this. Instead of General Zod being shot up into the sky to go to the Phantom Zone, in the newer film, in the old film, they're stuck in this, what looks to be a prism. But watch this. So they put Zod into this prism with his other bad people.
Graphene is isolated from graphite. It takes on some miraculous properties. It is a mere 1 atom thick.
So, 1 atom thick. How did they know in the 1980s, when the original Superman came out, that graphene would be invented in 2004? 1 atom thick. There they are, stuck in a sheet of graphene.
The first two-dimensional material ever discovered. Graphene was discovered by Andre Geim and his... It is one of the thinnest materials known to man, yet it was 150 times stronger than an equivalent weight of steel.
The man of graphene, I mean the man of steel. Are you starting to see what's happening here? The man of steel is the man of graphene.
Or 10 times better than a steel plate. Graphene has been used in bulletproof vests that had twice the stopping power of a Kevlar vest.
Graphene might even make your bones regenerate quicker.
So, now you're understanding what's going on. The Phantom Zone is the graphene zone, and we're all headed towards it because now they're saying that graphene's everywhere. Now, how did they know in the 1980s that graphene would be discovered as a single layer in 2004? Well, it's because, as I've been telling you, the fallen angels are the ones giving us technology according to a set timeline for the end times. They give out this technology to make the people who follow them rich.
Studies in lab rats have shown that graphene caused tumors to shrink.
So, regenerative properties, stronger bones, Superman.
But all this comes at a cost.
You could be carrying some kind of alien pathogen.
Been here for 33 years, Doctor. Haven't infected anyone yet.
Been here 33 years, haven't infected anyone yet. There's a second 33 mentioned, that's 66. That's the twinning.
For 33 years, we prepared. Until finally, we detected a distress beacon.
Unreal. Now, at this point, Zod lands what are called Earth engines, world engines, down onto Earth to terraform Earth to make it suitable for the new race of super people. Kryptons. Now, here's more reproductive symbolism. This is obviously childbirth, and out comes a Hydra. A graphene Hydra. They wonder why people are making these assumptions about things that these people are making. Look at this. Thing shoots out of here, and it's got this Hydra-like tentacles at the end that's trying to attack Superman. He grabs it and breaks it into graphene pieces, programmable matter, as it wraps around him. So this is the unnatural birth, indestructible. Remember, Hydras can regenerate. And so that's what they're showing here. It regenerating after it's broken into pieces. So 2013 movie, you guys, with all this predictive programming about graphene that seemed to relate to a lot of stuff that we've been talking about. Here's the Wikipedia article on graphene. It has all these supernatural properties, of course, conductive properties. It's got an electric field that they say can't be turned off once it's switched on, and all kinds of other stuff. All right, let's go back into the chat, see what you guys think about all this. Shocking, isn't it? How in our faces this all is, if we bother to look and put the puzzle pieces together. Yes, nanotechnology. It's fallen angel tech, and it is everywhere now. Yep. Yes, the serpent on the chest is the symbol. Lilith, absolutely. That's what it is. It's a serpent coming out of the chest. Now, in the movie, they say that the S represents hope, and that that's what it means in their language, in the Krypton language. But we all know what it is. It's the serpent coming out of the chest. It's the possession. We've seen it repeated over and over again in different shows and TV shows and things like this, and movies. In the Alien series, when the alien pops out of the chest almost every time, that would be the serpent in the chest, the possession, the parasite. We also saw it in the Stargate SG-1 TV series. The Goa'uld serpent would live in the chest of its host body, and they would call it a host. I mean, it's pretty obvious what it is. And look, you can see here in the picture here, the DNA is even put into his chest. The DNA of the serpent put into Superman's chest, preserved. So it's all there. It's all there. All right. So if you're new to the channel, we show up every morning, same time except Saturdays. And we do have a backup channel where we do our Honey Milk Ranch homesteading stuff on that backup channel. Smaller group over there, but some of you are interested in that, so that's cool. And that's just my place where I live and, you know, my life out here. And we do these decodes to show you the predictive programming and how it fits into what we're going through right now. So we do a lot of retrospective stuff. And so this is one such example today. We look at numerical synchronicity, not numerology, but numerical synchronicity, and how the enemy uses these numbers to bring order to their plans. Okay, so that's what we look at on this channel. We're a Christian channel. We believe in the gospel, Jesus Christ, and all of this relates back to that, because in the future, you know, everything is revealed. It has to be revealed. Spiritual law says that God's not going to keep his people in the dark. So this is one such channel that brings a lot of the spiritual stuff to light so that people are not deceived by the things that the enemy is doing. You know, the Bible says no weapon shall prosper. Well, unfortunately, that's only works when you're living in the will of God. Okay. If you're deceived, then the weapon is going to prosper. So part of it, you know, it's a two-way street. It's about walking in his will, being open to truth, seeing what the enemy's up to, and not being naive to what's going on. So the beam going into Superman looks like a flux capacitor. Sure does, Shaggy. Good observation. Absolutely. That's the syrinx is what that is. It's the syrinx shape. It's actually the sound. It's where the sound from a bird comes from. It's basically their windpipe, but there's a split. They have a split windpipe before going into the lungs, and that's called the syrinx, and that's how they're able to make sound. So all right. The new Superman, some filmed in Cleveland, Ohio. Oh, wow. Is there a new Superman coming out? I didn't know that. I'll have to take a look at that. All right. there's lots of sun symbolism in the movie, Man of Steel. He gets his energy from the sun. So there's your Apollo aspect to it as well, which is probably why they mentioned the 33 and 33, the 66, because 66 is the Apollo number as well, isn't it? All right, you guys, I guess I'm going to pop off of here. Short show today. I'll see you guys tomorrow with Between the Headlines. Much love.